Hello everyone, welcome to the Mainframe Summit. I'm your host of this exciting session, Daniel Newman, CEO of the Futurum Group. And I'm joined side by side for this session next to someone that I've had the chance over the past few years to get to know very, very well. In fact, I've shared many stages, and I now am lucky enough to share a podcast called The Main Scoop with this awesome individual, Greg Lotko.
We actually share stage and screen.
Stage and screen. Welcome to the Mainframe Summit. I'm super happy to be here with you, and I'm happy to be sitting in this seat, getting the chance to ask you a few more questions as opposed to what we normally do as Main Scoop co-host, which is asking our esteemed guest question. But today you are the esteemed guest. You know, technology is fun, innovation is fun, and the mainframe is fun. I mean, it's a topic which, by the way, as I've spent multiple years now hosting with you, you know, I've gotten to learn so much more about it in the community, bringing on guests, experts from some of the biggest companies on the planet, consultancies. I mean, this is really an important part of the technology ecosystem. But I'd love to start out, you know, with you and just, you know, what is it that is, I think you told me 35 years you've been in and around this thing. What has been the draw for you that is not only brought you into the mainframe, but has kept you here for almost as long as I've been alive?
That was a good one. You know, it's all about the people. When I think about starting my career in the mainframe space and applications, working in the field and services and software and hardware and then back to software, the platform's great, the technology is phenomenal, but it was always the people that were bringing me back. The passion in this ecosystem around the platform and for each other, for doing the real heavy lifting in society. People are committed to this platform as a career, and it's gone, you know, across generations, because there were people that were training me and teaching me about the platform, and there's the folks that are going to be doing this for many years into the future that we're in the process of skilling them up now. So it's all about the people.
So I imagine over, you know, these 3 decades, and as you've evolved in your role, and now you hold a large leadership role in one of the largest companies in this particular space, there are probably a lot of stories that, you know, have come to fruition, maybe people that you've met along the way, companies, ecosystem partners that you've developed. Is there a story that kind of encapsulates, or maybe couple of smaller, you know, anecdotes, Greg, that, you know, really define kind of what has been your draw into this industry? Maybe it's a person that you've worked closely with, or, you know, a big win that kind of you said, this is, I see myself doing this for my, you know, my whole career.
Yeah, and it is about the people and the commitment. So just a couple of different things, right? It's the people that you meet that are wondering, hey, can I make a career around this? And you share with them your experience. You share the people that grew up around this ecosystem and are now the leaders or the luminaries in the space. And you create that hope, that desire, that belief in the people that are new or younger coming into the ecosystem, that they can be there too. And then the immense gratification that comes from seeing them 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, and you see them leading significant portions of the industry. And it's like, see, look what you can accomplish. Look what you can do. And that brings me the greatest joy out of anything. But if I switch to thinking about another conversation or another thing that's the draw, it's the commitment of the people to the platform and the success of the businesses, the customers, the industry around this. I got a call one weekend from a customer freaking out. They had a really significant problem with a significant piece of technology, and they're like, oh my God, Greg, can you help? I was like, absolutely, we'll get our head of support, we'll dive right back in, and our head of support needed to reach out and find somebody on our services team to be able to help them with that product. He said, hey, I don't have anybody on my support team. So the customer called me back, and they were like, hey, they're jumping all over it. I appreciate it, but I'm blown away. You don't have anybody in support on this product. And I had to say to the customer, I was like, well, you realize that's not our product. It's one of our competitors' products. And they were like, whoa, 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 oh my God, I didn't even know. And I was like, look, but we have somebody who has the expertise and we're happy to help you. It's that level of commitment that on all sides, right? The idea that we know this is an important customer, we know the importance of their business, and we will do whatever it takes to get them up and running. You know, whether it has anything to do with our product, somebody else's product, or something homegrown, you know, an application of their own. But then full circle that this person was having an issue and they thought, hey, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call this team because I need help. And I'm not going to worry about thinking about whose product it is. I'm just going to focus on the partnerships there, and you're going to help me get my business up and running. All that's commitment. I mean, you could say it's camaraderie. It's the ecosystem. It's partnership. It's commitment. It's people embedded with and throughout the technology.
Yeah, I think the amount of desire that you show to want to help when it's not atypical these days to be like, not our problem. That wasn't our, you know, because the part that kind of stood out to me there is when you said, it wasn't even our product. And, you know, the natural tendency would be, there's who you got to call.
And I mean, we've seen that, we've heard that, you know, you see that across other industries, but those aren't the companies that you want to continue to do business with. Those aren't the people you want to associate with, the people that you want to continue to be around. I mean, you look across any industry, the brands that have the most value, the businesses that you want to continue to interact with, even in your personal life, are the ones that make you feel special, that treat you like they need to earn your business every day. And in this space of the industry, when you're dealing with a platform that's running the most important workloads in the world, there's not time, I don't think, frankly, to be asking about, you know, am I supposed to do this, that, or the other thing right now? Is this mine? Is this yours? Whose is it? It's, hey, the business isn't functioning. I need help. I need to get back up and running. Well, let's do whatever the heck we got to do and
let's
make sure
fix
that
it.
happens first.
We can sort it out later.
You can figure all the other stuff out after the fact.
So a lot of the ability to respond like that to a problem comes down to having the right talent, and having the people skilled. And you and I have, you know, we've looked at some data together over periods of time about skills and upskilling. And of course, you could look across the whole technology field. It's not really just the mainframe. But at the same time, with mainframe sort of always fighting the battle of being like, oh, it's mainframe. That's the older platform, right? And then it's, oh, the cloud, or oh, AI. That's the cool. Like, how are you seeing attraction of talent being really fostered in the industry? How are you driving that?
Yeah, I wince when people talk about old as a bad thing, and it really should be about longevity, durability, right? So across technology, we're always having to reskill, upskill, train the next generation or the additional people that we need to add. So it's really misunderstood to say because this technology has been around longer that we have a bigger problem or there's an issue out there in finding skills or people that want to work on the mainframe. We have no problem finding people. We have no problem skilling them up and training them. We have our own Vitality residency program. We've run multiple hundred of people now through that program, some that we've hired for our customers and then they get deployed afterwards, some that customers have provided. Massive amounts of online education available that we open up to to all of our customers at no cost, so long as they have the rights to the product. And again, just as a data point, like people don't want to learn about the mainframe. When we took that online content and made it available at no cost to our customers, we thought, maybe we'd see 2-3x growth. We've seen 30 times growth. If you make it available, people come to it. So what I'm seeing, the bigger issue is people not being aware of the platform, not being aware that this is a place where I can make a career, and the idea that it's got the historical track record of a place that has been strong and vibrant for decades.
Well, I mean, you sort of hit it without hitting it, and of course, I'm just the messenger here, and I can, part of the sort of what brought us together even in the main scoop at first was sort of the outside in and the inside out viewpoints,
raising awareness.
And the outside in has sort of been, well, the mainframe, if the innovators in the cloud had their way, it would have gone bye-bye birdie, a long time ago. But the resilience has been unequivocal. It's been unbelievable. I mean, the resilience that the biggest industries, the biggest workloads, the most, resilient, secure, scalable have stayed. Talk about just how durable and how important mainframe really is for these big workloads, because I think there was a lot of people that were outside. It was like, oh, we can fit, and it's like, I think a lot of them that have tried are like, they're now mainframe believers.
And you did show your age there a little bit with talking about cloud, because that was only the latest, right? I mean, it was personal computing was going to replace the mainframe. Then client server, or just servers, high-powered distributed servers were going to do it, and the internet was going to take over everything, which the internet's gotten pretty big, but then cloud, right? It's the durability and the problem that it solves, and you got into it, scale and size and throughput. I mean, people talk about how many tweets are done a day, not just by political candidates, but how many tweets are done a day, or how many Snapchat images are done, or all these things that we think about
Payments
from
process.
social media. We think all these things are huge numbers, but a single mainframe can process 1 trillion transactions a day. Nothing approaches this, right? I mean, even going beyond cloud, everybody thought everything was going to be done with mobile computing, right? I don't know, we were going to crowdsource our mobile phones and solve all the world's problems. Nothing can handle the scale like this. And that's not to say that everything should work or run on the mainframe. It shouldn't. I mean, there's user interfaces, there's web edge processing, there's certain workloads that make more sense, and that's why those other technologies came to be. But throughput, scale, resiliency, stability, durability are all hallmarks of why not only has the mainframe survived or had the staying power, but really thrived. I mean, it continues to grow to this day.
Yeah, I think the word I always like to use is and, not or. There was a lot of kind of personalities and pundits and in the technology space that kind of want it to be or.
The great technologies stay around because they have that area that they're unmatched, and then we find ways to supplement them and solve other problems. So it is an and, right?
Well, there's been some great examples of that over the past few years. There's been, the type of, security capabilities that have allowed hybrid and mainframes to coexist. There's been the type of silicon development that has allowed for mainframes to have, AI
workloads,
powered workloads.
You can do multi-factor authentication with the mainframe.
Talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about how, compute is evolving on the mainframe very similarly to other areas of innovation that are off the mainframe, because compute and all the other things that you mentioned about the resiliency of the platform actually make it quite a desirable place to actually innovate and continue to evolve the technology.
And it goes both ways. I I think that's the other thing about the evolution of technology is one camp or one side or one group learns from watching what's going on, and then you decide whether or not you just and connect, or whether or not it makes sense to bring on platform and integrate some of it, right? So, I mean, go back to the beginning, right? Everybody talks about cloud and they want to talk about virtualization. Virtualization started with the mainframe. I mean, that's what it was about. So then you look at when the mainframe wasn't the place to do analytics workloads, and there was, even if it wasn't heavy analytic workloads, there was warehousing workloads. It was like, hey, you would never do that on a mainframe. Let's migrate the data off. You still needed the transaction throughput happening on the mainframe, but then you would update to another platform to do the analytics. And while that worked, the issue was always currency of the data. You know, how often were you making the copies? And you spend a lot of money writing that data back and forth, which is why, you know, it evolved. And even though you do front ends very efficiently off of the mainframe and connect, it was like, hey, for the amount of money or resource that's being used to migrate this data around and keep it in sync, wouldn't it be better to invest in doing the analytics on platform? And that's why you see the shift of analytics coming back on platform. But it doesn't mean that everything is going to come to the mainframe, and it doesn't mean all of mainframe's qualities are going to be repeated in the distributed or the cloud space, which is why you get into the real part of the APIs and the efficiency of being able to call and connect across platforms. If you can do that efficiently, if you can, rather than return, you know, a whole set of data from a database cross-platform and have to stuff that through the pipe, if you can do the result or the answer, that gets way more efficient. And if you can be efficient about coming in and getting point data, then you can do the workload where it really makes sense.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that seems to keep the world going around is the economics of any technology. You know, I've been on the record many times talking about the deflationary aspects of technology, right? New technology makes basically the workforce, it's always one of two things or both. Productivity, efficiency, or both. Companies have run the tests over time looking at mainframe technology. You know, there's plenty of CIOs that came in and made declarations about moving workloads off and then many times came back.
Those were technology decisions for technology's sake.
Correct. Like, oh, we're going to do what's
here's the buzzword, I got to implement it, otherwise I'm not a rock star.
But in the end, you have spent a lot of time as a leader of this industry assessing the economics, talking to the customers, the big banks, the, you know, the big fintechs, insurance companies, those that have that volume of transactions, the criticality, the security, all the things. And you've looked at it, but I mean, what are the economics that you continue to hear, continue to see that really have driven this stability in the platform and that will probably drive stability in the platform for many more years to come?
So there's some fundamental truths. I mean, if you look at some of these large organizations that use the mainframe, and we've seen this across a bunch of different industries, where you'll have the mainframe platform maybe doing 70% or more of the data processing in that organization for less than 10% of the cost. And then you have the other 30% where, you know, they're doing that processing, but it's 90% of the cost. You know, of course that sounds like, oh my God, everything should be on the mainframe. It's not. What it means is if you've got the right workload there, it is highly, highly effective and efficient and economical. And in fact, if you look cross industries, I mean, everybody would expect that those businesses that are the top performers in their industry are probably investing more heavily in cloud than their closest competitors. Yeah. That's absolutely true. Those that are outperforming their closest competitors, the best in class, they're also out investing on the mainframe. And 90% or more of them are expanding their investment in the mainframe. So it's that tying together of if you have the right workload there and you recognize that it's not about technology for technology's sake, It's about the economics. It's about the right workload. You can get extreme efficiency.
Well, there's no better indicator of vision and intent than spend, meaning that they see and they intend.
I think it's recurring spend, right? But when they spend the money and they don't get the value or they don't get the return, they're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
And the economics have continued to be favorable, and in these cases where that resilient, scalable, durable compute is required for these high volume transaction, and it just hasn't economically made sense, and this is part of what's been so sticky.
And and again, it's full circle, right? I mean, that is the reason why people continue to use the platform and expand. Sitting on the other side of the equation, providing products within this ecosystem, that is exactly why we've continued to expand our spend. Every year since we were acquired by Broadcom, we have expanded the team. We have expanded our investment. I've hired more than 100, triple digit, every year. Even as we went through pandemics, we were continuing to expand the team. That's because the return on investment we're getting by driving more value to our customers, the growth that we see from our customers and the usage of the platform, it's all across the ecosystem.
Substantial. Yeah, we did some research on Broadcom, in fact, and sometimes, hawkonomics, I like to call them, can be hard for some people to understand. Investment in R&D is actually substantial, and that's what our research found, and a lot of people don't understand that, but that's also why that part of the business has been so successful. So congratulations on that. And as much as you, as my partner in the main scoop and someone that I've potted with regularly, and we like to rib each other a bit, I have to say, outside looking in as an analyst, I think you're a luminary in this space, in the mainframe. So in a real quick luminary / humble servant way, give me your and your team, or the ecosystem perspective of what do you think happens? Like, what's the next few years look like for this industry, for this business?
I think it is all about the and. You're going to see what I think started about 5 years ago. For a number of decades, probably since about the last 90s, it was not fashionable to talk about the mainframe. It was fashionable to talk about what was next or the next great technology. But in the last 5 years, or a little bit longer than that, you've seen analyst firms such as yourselves, you've seen CEOs, CIOs, CTOs start to talk way more openly about, hey, mainframe has a place. It is an and. We are going to continue to not only continue using this platform, but expand our usage and grow. So I think what you see over the next 3 to 5 years is more of an embracing of, yes, I need to develop skills for cloud and analytics and quantum computing and every new technology and whatever hasn't even been invented yet, but that you'll see just as much discussion about, and here's what we need to do with mainframe, and here's how we have to connect it, and here's what it's doing in our business, and this is why we're expanding our investment. I think it comes out of the IT shops in the back room where we've all known for decades how much companies are investing in and doing it, but it wasn't talked about as openly. You see that loud and proud.
There's a lot there, and we will say it's all about the and, Greg, over the next several years. And with that, I got to thank you so much for joining me today here at the Mainframe Summit.
And I've been delighted to join you.
Thanks everyone for joining us for this segment at the Mainframe Summit. Click and check out all of the other summit coverage. I appreciate you tuning in, but for Greg and myself, we got to say goodbye. We'll see you all soon.